Welcome to Something More to Podcast, where we move through topics wherever the conversation takes us. I'm your host, Adam Culbertson.
And I'm Richard Collins. Recently in the realm of pop culture, particularly with like Marvel and Disney. I know that there was a whole uproar pretty recently with the whole Spider-Man custody battle between Disney and Sony.
Yeah.
And a lot of people got really upset about that for one reason or another. I still don't have a lot of faith in Sony to be able to handle the movies on their own. Yeah. Admittedly, the Sam Raimi movies were actually really good for the first two. Mm-hmm. But I think that lies a lot more on Sam Raimi than it does on Sony.
Yeah, true.
I think Sony is particularly bad about letting kind of corporate boards get their hands on things and kind of adjust things to their whims for what they think is going to be a good box office movie, and not what's really true to the character. And, you know, I did read something that was a fair point to say that there are parts of the MCU version of Spider-Man, Tom Holland version of Spider-Man, that aren't necessarily true to the character. I mean, which is very true. Like, in a lot of ways, like, he's supposed to be just a generally awkward, poor, like, trying to get by, having to stitch his own costume together between fights because, you know, he doesn't have the kind of money or support that he would need to be able to just, you know, go be this big-time superhero. And so like with MCU, it kind of does away with that because you've got him as like Tony Stark's protege and he's got all this technology and like all this stuff provided for him. And like he doesn't really want for anything. So, I mean, in a certain way, I can see how that's kind of against one aspect of Spider-Man. But in other ways, I feel like he's also more accurate than some iterations that we've had. Like, he kind of has that, like, awkward, hapless thing down. Granted, Tobey Maguire maybe had it down a little better.
Yeah, I did like Tobey as Spider-Man.
Like, Tobey Maguire had a really good, just awkward face.
Yeah, yeah.
Tom Holland doesn't really have an awkward face.
No.
But the way that the character's written, like, he still has his awkward moments. Like, he still messes up a lot. And like a lot of problems come about because he keeps messing up. And I think that that's, you know, one of the more important parts of Spider-Man is that kind of whole growing pains, figuring out being a superhero and how to do things. Of course, a lot of rumors flying around about like the potential for a Venom and Spider-Man team up movie where they do introduce Carnage, which would be really cool.
Yeah.
And so ultimately I'm really excited about that. Like, it also kind of gives the chance to be able to flesh out more characters and everything. Like, it does feel like they were building up towards Sinister Six in some iteration.
They totally. Yeah. I was getting that vibe.
They've introduced a lot of different characters that could easily be put in. I mean, like, you know, we had Scorpion introduced at the end of Homecoming and that still hasn't had anything come out of it, but
yeah,
you know, undoubtedly he's going to be thrown in there whenever they do something like that.
Yeah, you got
you have Shocker who kind of played a really small part in Homecoming. I mean, so, you know, there's definitely some pieces there to be able to put that together, and I mean, really, they'd only have to introduce one or two more characters to be able to do so, and, you know, do the whole collaboration movie right instead of the way that DC decided to do Suicide Squad, where they were like, okay, here's like 6 characters all at once, and we're going to try and introduce them all right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, you could still use like Vulture. Like, you know, you don't need an explanation for Vulture. Like, small explanation for Scorpion. You don't really need an explanation for Shocker. And like Mysterio as a character has been introduced, so that's always a possibility.
Yes.
Like you have a couple of other like odds and ends that probably won't be, but I think the big one that, I don't know, I feel like you almost have to have either Green Goblin or Doc Ock. Neither has really been introduced yet, but I think that that's going to be your big focal introduction whenever they do this, is either Green Goblin or Doc Ock.
Yeah, those are two very important characters.
Oh, very, very important.
And tie really closely to Peter Parker.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
As well as Spider-Man.
In various iterations of Spider-Man, each one of them has been Peter Parker's mentor.
Yeah.
So, I mean, definitely really big characters in the Spider-Man mythos. And definitely glad to see that they didn't just jump straight to one of those. Because as much as I like the Sam Raimi movies, like, I think it could have done a little better if it didn't just jump straight to Green Goblin.
Yeah.
And then to Doc Ock. Because, I mean, in all honesty, like it was like they were trying to get, like, the big hits, like, the whole time.
Yeah, they were.
Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Venom. Boom, boom, boom. And I think if you're really trying to make a good, long-lasting series, like, you can't just come out of the gates with all of the best villains.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that's why I love the animated Amazing Spider-Man on TV.
Yeah,
because they did all the small villains, like and then they would do like a big team up and everything, or Kingpin would hire a bunch of people and do a team up of villains that way and stuff.
Oh yeah, like the 90s animated cartoon where like Kingpin was kind of the catalyst for the Sinister Six in that version.
Or I guess it wasn't amazing, it was just Spider-Man the animated series.
I forget exactly what it was called, but yeah, that 90s animated Spider-Man show. Yeah, like where Kingpin was the one that kind of brought them all together and threw them, like Rhino and Scorpion and like Shocker and everybody at Spider-Man. Yeah, Kingpin played a big part in the animated series. Which, for that matter, why have we never seen Rhino in like a live action?
Yeah, I don't know. Now with the Spider-Man video game, I love the way that they did Rhino. Like, I liked his more like tech kind of suit and not just like a skin suit, and he's just giant. Big.
Oh yeah. I definitely like the tech angle, because I think that's really the way you want to go with Spider-Man villains. Is that tech angle, either like technology, like a technological suit, or like some kind of like chemistry thing that went wrong that gave them powers, or it's all should be revolving around technology, I feel like. And so they've been doing a good job of that in the MCU so far. Like even Vulture was very heavily technology based. So I think that that's a good direction, a good angle. On a second note, actually, with the MCU, they actually announced a couple of more shows for Disney Plus, which just kind of cements Disney Plus in for me even more. One of them is a She-Hulk show. Oh shit! Yeah, I like She-Hulk. Yeah, She-Hulk show should be pretty awesome. Like that can be really cool. The other one, which I know I've talked about before, and I'm like super excited that this is actually happening now, is an actual show from Moon Knight.
Oh yeah, like I know you've been wanting Moon Knight. I really don't know a whole lot about Moon Knight, but I know you've been wanting. And
that's fine. You don't necessarily have to know anything about Moon Knight.
About to get a show, so I'll find out.
Exactly. But I'm super excited about that. I've been wanting it for a long time, and they actually announced it. It's like, yes. Yeah. Oh, and something else. Because I was recently hanging out with my friend down in Colombia, that he actually brought up, and it didn't really click with me at first until. Like he had mentioned it, and then I actually happened to see like a promotional thing for WandaVision that they showed at D23 this weekend. What they're actually doing with WandaVision, and this makes way too much sense to not be the case. It's not that they're trying to bring Vision back, or it's just like rewind or this, that, and anything else. The image that I saw was like the kind of thing you would see in like a 50s like Better Housekeeping like magazine cover or something, where it's that whole like stereotypical 50s nuclear family kind of house, and like Wanda and Vision like sitting there on the couch and everything. What this is building up to is absolutely how they're going to do House of M. There's like no doubt in my mind at this point that this is what they're doing. Within the realm of comics, the way that actually worked was that Wanda was with Vision in the comics. Like that's actually a comics thing. Yeah. But she basically had made kids up in her mind.
Okay.
Like she kind of had this whole psychotic break or whatever.
Yeah.
And like losing those kids just sent her way off the deep end. And she ended up just in this whole like, you know, just blind like thing about losing her children, like just completely rewrites the world.
Oh.
Like it basically completely rewrote everything to where mutants were the ruling class over all of society.
Huh.
Like Magneto and like her and all of them were basically like the rulers of this new world. Like the majority, or I guess rather the elite of the mutants were kind of the ruling class. Many of the mutants actually lost their powers altogether within House of M.
Okay.
It was basically rewritten so that they were never mutants in the first place.
Oh.
And obviously this isn't something that they're going to just like, you know, WandaVision then immediately go into.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like this is something where they're going to start building on that kind of like psychosis and that kind of like, you know, putting her in this place where she's going to try and do something like really, you know, out of hand like that. So it definitely feels like that's the direction they're going to go. And especially with introducing the mutants, like that could be a really interesting way to, you know, I guess introduce them sort of. I don't know how they're going to do it necessarily, but you could kind of take that idea, twist it a little bit, and instead of like kind of modifying the mutants that were there, this could even be the catalyst that ends up introducing mutants into the world.
Yeah. Now, would this be like a because I don't know a whole lot about that. Like I did read some Marvel comic. Like when was this? Like when all that happened?
House of M. Oh, I want to say House of M was like early 2000.
Okay. Because I did read some comics around that time that had to do with alternate timelines and everything. So is this like completely
2005?
Okay. I probably didn't read that. I did read a lot of stuff with like the alternate timelines with Apocalypse and
this was actually main like 616 Marvel Universe.
Okay. So it's just going to completely rewrite the current universe.
More or less. Although that being said, they're starting to lean towards this whole multiverse idea. Yeah. And possibly using that to actually shake up a lot of things within the MCU.
So it might be like an alternate timeline.
It could even be something like that.
Okay.
It could be more towards just shaking up the MCU as a whole.
Yeah.
The end result of House of M mostly was that when the whole thing ended, when, you know, she kind of came to her senses, was talked down or whatever, she basically like put everything back to normal, except she also at the same time said no more mutants. Yeah. And from that time, there were only, I think, like 128 or something like that mutants that were left that had any powers at all. Oh, and wow. No more mutants were born after that point.
Oh, okay. So they're just the last ones.
Up until a good deal later with Hope Summers. But that's, you know, a whole nother story.
Yeah.
Far separated.
Oh, yeah.
But as far as like Marvel canon goes, like when that happened, that was it. Just this is how many mutants there are. No more mutants are being born.
Yeah.
Part of that was because there was a lot of bloating with mutants in Marvel Comics. Like there were just hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of them. They could just basically pull one out from anywhere and just be like, oh, yep, this is a mutant. They can do this.
Yeah.
And it was just getting a little ridiculous. And also at the same time, this is when they were kind of fighting that battle with movie rights with Fox and, you know, kind of having their downtime. They had to sell off rights to be able to stay afloat because this is before Disney ever bought them. Yeah. Like they had to basically sell off rights to Universal and Sony and Fox. And in kind of a push to kind of combat the fact that they had lost the X-Men film rights, they were trying to basically raise stake in the Inhumans and lower stake in the mutants.
Yeah.
So there was this whole thing in comics where, like the Inhumans were basically created by this thing called the Terrigen Mists, Like they already have an inherent like thing about them. Basically, that was put there by the Kree, just kind of a dormant power or whatnot. And the Terrigen Mists would activate that power, and they would turn into an Inhuman.
Okay.
At the same time, Terrigen Mists also killed mutants.
Oh, jeez. So they were just trying to fuck over Fox for not wanting to work with them, I guess.
More or less. And they did a lot of things in comics. Like House of M was just one of them, of like kind of trying to depreciate like mutants and the X-Men in general.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that Marvel owns X-Men again.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Like I think that's good, because Fox is, I question a lot of things Fox does, just because they've made a lot of bad decisions over the years.
But those decisions are all going away now.
Yeah.
Because they don't have control over basically anything except for news and sports.
Yeah. But they the X-Men movies, I liked the first one. I started not liking the second one, and then it just got bad from there.
The second one was okay. The third one,
the second one was still good, but
I hated the third one.
Yeah.
I hated it with a passion.
Like I got done watching it, and I was just like, that's why. Like, why did? Yeah, I was.
Like it just felt
made
like
me
the third
upset.
one.
Like I was so disappointed in it.
It's like the third one. It just felt like it went off the deep end. It's like the first couple. Like it didn't really match up to a lot in the comics, but at its core, like some of the bigger characters were like in place and had the right personalities and everything.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the goals and emotions, thoughts, feelings, all that behind like Wolverine and Professor Xavier and Magneto, like we're all there, and everything made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But then it's like in 3, they kind of just throw it all out the window and just do a bunch of stuff that almost just flew in the face of the comics just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah. And
like,
then
like no, we're just gonna kill Scott Summers just because.
Yeah. And he plays such an important role, like in the continuation of that story and with Jean Grey and everything.
Now, if you get into the comics, there is actually a point where Scott Summers is kind of supposed to die, but it's a lot of stuff that happens between point A and point B there that kind of develops that story. I mean, and in the third X-Men movie, it was just kind of a pointless, like, oh, well, I guess he's dead now.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was it. Like, it was just it.
And for that matter, it was like, you know, oh, well, you know, Phoenix is a really complicated story. Why don't we just skip over Phoenix entirely and let's just do Dark Phoenix?
Yeah. Yeah, there was no build up to Dark Phoenix. It was just instantly Dark Phoenix, and she just started killing people and working directly for Magneto, like right off the bat.
Which, why would she even work for Magneto in the first place?
Yeah.
Like the Phoenix Force is far beyond Magneto.
Yeah. And freaking the way they did Deadpool.
Oh geez, no.
with the first Wolverine movie.
Yeah, no, that was atrocious. I don't know what that was. It wasn't Deadpool.
No. Weapon X.
Well, I mean, even in comics he's Weapon X.
Yeah.
Or he's Weapon 11.
Well,
Wolverine is Weapon X, Deadpool is Weapon 11, but it's like I don't know what the hell they put in that Wolverine Origins movie.
Yeah.
I mean, Wade Wilson was great.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the Deadpool movies.
Like Ryan Reynolds' depiction of Wade Wilson, even early in the movie, was great.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely. I was like, this is gonna give us Deadpool, and then they just completely fucked that up.
And then it was like, what the hell is this? Like, how can the Merc with a mouth not have a mouth?
Yeah. And even if you cut it, he'd heal probably.
yeah, exactly. It was just so like it was basically just like, oh well, we can't really have a character that just kind of mouths off all the time and acts silly, because that would detract from the serious moment we're trying to build to here in the movie.
Yeah.
And so we're just going to have the characters get annoyed at it, and so they'll engineer them to not have a mouth.
Yeah.
But it's like that's like literally the only reason why Deadpool is a popular character.
Yeah.
Like if you take away like the one-liners and quips and everything, then he's basically just the same grimdark character he started of that was a ripoff of Deathstroke.
Yeah. Oh. Dude that plays Jon Snow.
Yeah, Kit Harington.
Yeah, Kit Harington is going to be joining the Marvel Universe now.
Oh yeah. Any
Yeah.
word on as who?
He's that knight dude. I'm trying to remember his name.
Oh, wait, the MCU?
Yeah, he was a dude that was part of the Avengers.
Knight dude.
I gotta look it up.
Like when you say knight, you mean like KNIGHT?
Yeah. KNIGHT. Like he actually wears armor. He has this like black glowing sword. Okay, so he's gonna be playing Dane Whitman, who is the Black Knight.
I think I know some really vague tangential stuff on that, but not much.
Yeah, it's like an inherited thing. Like down the line, they inherit each person inherits the sword, and they get powers. Like he wears this suit of armor and everything like that. I don't really know the character. I just saw it in news that Kit Harington is joining the MCU as Black Knight.
That's interesting because it also makes me kind of wonder like what angle they're going to do that with.
Yeah.
Like, are they going to have like a Young Avengers or New Avengers or something going on? Like,
yeah, they might.
Because I mean, they already have kind of like a modified Avengers group, sort of.
And
like,
they're like
your
recruiting
B characters
and stuff too. Like they're
true.
So.
But especially if they're doing something like that and including a character like that, it makes me wonder what other characters are coming in at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty interesting, I think. And I like Kit Harington.
Oh, yeah.
I watched him in, of course, Game of Thrones, and then I think another HBO series called Gunpowder, I believe it was. I only watched a few episodes of it. It is about like religious persecution in Europe or something like that. I didn't really get into it, but I think he did a good job in it. I just wasn't getting into the story.
Fair enough. Although, there is like one other thing that's, I guess, kind of big is the new trailer for Star Wars Episode 9.
Yeah?
Yeah, they put out a new trailer.
A new.
So, I don't know. It definitely is ramping up to be very interesting, to say the least. Within it, there's like a scene where Rey is there like in a dark cloak with like a red lightsaber, except it's like two blades like kind of side by side, and then she kind of flicks it down so that it kind of extends. It just kind of like folds out to where it's like a dual lightsaber.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like Darth Maul's.
Like you can, yeah, it's like Darth Maul's, but it folds up to have two blades pointing in the same direction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like that.
So it's like a what's it called? Like a stab dagger, kind of like
I guess something like
hold
that.
it in the middle and like stab with it.
I guess something like that. I don't know how it would functionally work, but at the same time, Episode 7 when we had a similar scene with Kylo Ren, and everybody was like, "Well, how the hell is like a lightsaber that looks like a broadsword supposed to work?"
Yeah.
So I'm sure this at some point they're just kind of trying to screw with us.
Yeah, I don't. They're making some weird choices. I think I don't know. It may work out. I think the technical thing behind his lightsaber with the exhaust ports or whatever it was a cracked crystal that's used in it, and it was releasing so much energy that it needed exhaust ports so it wouldn't explode.
I mean, that makes sense to some extent.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I don't know. Like my favorite, I guess, out there crazy theory that actually comes courtesy of MatPat with Game Theory, Film Theory.
Yeah.
And he's got a whole video kind of exploring this, but I guess the main takeaway for me, or the thing that I think might be the most interesting thought in this, is that the plot of this movie very well could be about Ben Solo basically redeeming himself and coming out of the darkness, and Rey at the same time falling into darkness, and them kind of swapping sides, sort of.
Interesting.
I mean, if you think about it, Rise of Skywalker is the name of the movie. As far as people that we know for certain their lineage and their heritage, there are exactly 2 people of the Skywalker heritage that are still alive. And that's Leia and Ben.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you figure it's got to refer to one of them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because I doubt that it would just be, oh yeah, Luke's ghost comes back and is basically just a god now, and he does everything for them.
Yeah.
So I mean, I doubt that that's going to have anything to do with it. So I mean,
Luke doesn't even get to do his Jedi Academy.
No, he doesn't even get to do Jedi Academy, which sucks.
Yeah.
It does.
That was a huge thing.
It was a huge thing. We don't get Mara Jade or anything.
Man.
But I don't know. I still am holding out hope that the end point where they're trying to go with all of this is that they're trying to close the book on like the whole Skywalker saga as a whole, so that they can try and focus on the Star Wars universe at large.
Okay. I can see that, because they're loving doing these extra movies. Mm-hmm. I know Mandalorian is coming.
Right. And so, I mean, there's a lot of material out there, especially because, I mean, they are pulling a few bits here and there from the old extended universe. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of material out there that you can build off of. There's a lot of stuff that's just mentioned kind of tangentially in the movies that you can build off of. And so, like, it kind of feels like a shame that, you know, we have 9 entire movies basically spanning this one story that lasts for, like, 2 generations.
Yeah. I'm suspecting Leia's going to die.
I think that that's inevitable.
And I think that might be a turning point for Ben.
Very possibly. But I definitely feel like at this point, Rise of Skywalker is referring to Ben.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm trying to call him Ben at this point.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense to me. But, I mean, we'll find out.
We'll find out. I mean, obviously, I have no inside knowledge. This is all just speculation and guessing.
Totally. But that's fun. That's the fun part of it.
That is the fun part. And obviously, I don't even have any evidence to really back this on besides, well, he's a Skywalker.
Yeah. I mean, they can only keep Leia going so long.
But that being said, there is some evidence to kind of suggest that Rey is turning towards the dark side.
Yeah. It's not hard to do.
No, not hard to do at all. That's kind of the point.
Well, that's all we got for this episode. Hope you join us next time when we have something more to podcast.